Alright, this is Extra 99 again. Again, I'm giving an update on my guinea pigs. And right here on the top of our guinea pig cage, we have Ginger. I also made this video because I had a couple of people asking questions about this cage in particular. So I'm going to try to explain in a little better detail, you know, how I made different parts of the cage here, including the ramp. Mr. Semper on one of my videos asked how I made the ramp. And somebody else asked about my door hook, so I'll go over that just a little bit. I also just wanted to go ahead and update everybody on the guinea pigs. The guinea pigs are still doing great, and kind of a mess. These cages tend to get a little bit messy. As you can see, the table we have it on has a little bit of the food and litter and everything all over it. Seems like every time they move or run around the cage, they scatter debris. But you can say hi to Ginger. Hi, Ginger. You were in one of my videos earlier. Yeah. What do you think of the camera? You don't like it, huh? You don't like it, huh, Ginger? You don't like to be on YouTube? Huh? What do you think, girl? Oh, she darts and she goes down the ramp. Yeah, they usually get kind of scared when we go to pick them up, but they usually like it once they get picked up and we start petting them or whatever. And then Stormy is down here. And I'll go ahead and unlatch this, and then I'll go over the questions that people ask me about the cage. Hello, Stormy. You've gotten bigger, huh? You've gotten bigger since the last video we made. And they're pretty intelligent. I mean, Ginger knows that if she stays right there on the ramp, that she has a less probability of us picking her up, because she's kind of harder to capture. So if we really want to get her and pet her or whatever, we'll usually have to stick our arm down, you know, through the top and kind of scare her all the way to the bottom and then grab her. But as you can see, our little one here, Stormy, who is just a lot smaller than Ginger when we first got her, has definitely grown in size, and she's also starting to take up for herself more often. A lot of times she'll even try to take food away from Ginger or a treat or whatever now. Even though she's still quite a bit smaller, she's definitely starting to stand up for herself. So that's our two guinea pigs. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the ramp for Mr. Semper. And actually, why don't we just go ahead and cover the simplest one first. Oh, dogs. And so, as you can see, I created my door here, which I go over on how to make a CNC cage. Part 1 of 2, I believe, is where I go over how I made the door. I made it all one piece. This is a 3x1 cage where I have 3 14x14 CNC pieces here, and I've actually used 5 pieces with 1 in the middle on each of the joints here to cover it up, and that makes a one solid door, helps solidify it, so it's a lot easier to get in your cage by making one big piece here. I've also done that up at the top, where I just simply have it lift up. And you can see the 2 extra pieces there on top over the joints that help solidify the whole piece. And all I've done is used, you know, again, I've just used the zip ties to tie everything together. Even here where the door attaches, I mean, that's nothing special. It's simply attached to the bottom with zip ties. You know, it's just all zip tied together. Again, this is Coroplast here, which I've used and folded. You know, obviously I pre-measured it and, you know, folded it right here along the edges to make about a 5-inch high wall. But that wasn't the question. I think I went over all that kind of stuff in more detail on the other video that I made several months ago. So for the hook, I mean, you can use anything. We had several things to lock this in door. Here, I mean, if I wanted to, I just simply took a piece of pretty firm wire and wrapped one piece of wire like that around the door. And I've also done the same thing here. I even zip tied this one in and just kind of bent it so that when I first made it, all you had to do was stick a screwdriver through each of these hooks, and that would actually hold the door closed. Okay. So we've also, I don't know if you can see anything I'm doing here, but another thing, you can buy any kind of hook mechanism. I mean, I think we found this at a pet store or something like that, and that just has a little hook here that you can put around, you know, any rail, and then it has a spring mechanism, and you simply pull it down and latch. So as you can see how that works, and that holds it shut as well. I mean, you could use a screwdriver type deal through these wire hooks that I've made, really easy, or you can buy almost any kind of mechanism there. You could use clamps, you could use, you know, anything that's going to work for you, anything you have lying around. Really not a lot of them need to go spend a lot of money, but I think we bought that for like $1.85 at some store, so not too bad. Now the harder part of this is cage, and I'll definitely admit that when you make this cage, you know, tying all these 14 by 14 inch grid wire pieces together is actually pretty easy. You just bend them how you want and then start zip tying everything into place, and as far as the corners, start adding more zip ties that'll strengthen just the way you want. The hardest part of this cage was definitely making this ramp. And you know, I've learned a little bit from when I first made it, because when I first made it I didn't have the hole big enough up here at the top for the guinea pigs to go through. So I did learn a little bit as I made it, and I had to go in and make that hole bigger and adjust my ramp and that kind of thing. But to make the ramp, all I did was I took one of my wire grid pieces and I used some wire snips to, I believe I snipped it like 4 wide. 4 of my, you know, you're gonna have to measure yours because your spacing might be different on your pieces, but I measured mine like 4 wide, and I tried to clip each wire piece like right past that grid, and I went in and snipped there, and I went in and snipped right here, and then I had enough room left over on the other side to also make 4 here. And so I had 2 long pieces that I snipped, and then all I did is I took one piece, once I had it all cut off. I'll try to simulate here what I did. So let's say I have one piece here that's 4 wide. So let's pretend that's what I snipped off. And then all I did is I take my second piece from the other side and I just basically laid it right over, and I put the end of it like right here, the top, you know, one end of it, and I just measured it, you know. So I wanted it to be long enough. Obviously one piece alone isn't going to be long enough to go from the top to the bottom if you go with that much of an angle. So you just want to put it wherever it's going to be. You can adjust it just like this, and then, or strength, you know, zip tie them, zip tie the 2 pieces together whenever you get whatever length you need. Okay, so then you have your long piece that's the right dimension that you want, and then you're just simply going to put it in here. Now here, right here, this is just another piece that I added to the side just to keep them from falling off, you know, from falling off on the side. So I simply added that towards the end here, and again I just zip tied it in. But this is a fancy piece, as you can see. I didn't put this piece in until I had my ramp all the way in, and then I just basically kind of put a piece up there and kind of marked where I needed to snip it, where it actually ran into the edge of my rail, and then again just zip tied it in. So once you got your long piece for your ramp, you're basically just going to use zip ties, which you can see I have a few zip ties here that I need to cut off. Here you're going to have a ton of zip ties when you make one of these cages that you're going to have to snip, and I definitely recommend buying at least 200 or 300 zip ties. Even for a cage this small, you're probably going to use them. So all I did was wire that in at about the, you know, the size that I wanted, or about the angle that I wanted, and put it back as far back towards the other wall as you can. That way you can also zip tie your ramp in from the bottom. You're going to tie it in up here, and then you can also tie it in for added strength from your sidewall over there. And then if you actually put in a piece over here like I've done to basically make a wall there, you can zip tie that in. Now I had to go in, like I say, I had to put one piece here and kind of measure mark where I needed to, you know, cut that square frame so it was kind of at an angle. And then you zip tie that in as well, and it actually helps solidify the whole thing. It helps hold the side of the ramp in as well. Now all this stuff here, the silver stuff, that's just, you know, firm, I think it's 18 gauge wire or something like that I've actually just cut. And you know, I was just playing around. I just made some little rails and stuff like that for the ramp. That was before I actually had this piece here. I was just trying to make some railing and stuff to try to keep the guinea pigs from cages from falling off. Now here as well, as soon as I got all this in, I just cut some of my coroplast, leftover coroplast, and I covered it up so that they're not walking on the wire. You don't want your guinea pig's feet walking on the wire itself, because it can be bad for their feet. So you definitely want to cover it. I covered it with coroplast, and then I've also bought some grip tape. You know, you can buy this stuff for traction tape. It's actually what it's made for, to put down on like slippery surfaces and stuff like that for humans, so they don't slip and fall. This is just a piece of tape that's a grip tape. It's called grip tape. You can buy a piece on Amazon.com for like $3 or $4. And I've just bought a length of that, and it was right about the same, right dimensions. All right, so once we've got the bottom ramp in there, sorry about the spliced together video. My battery keeps dying trying to finish this video here before I leave for the afternoon. But once you got the ramp in there and you got it all zip tied in there, you put your coroplast on it, and what I did is just kind of drilled some holes in the coroplast real close to the edges, and again use zip ties to tie it down to the ramp. Okay, so once you get that in there, and when you put that ramp in there, you're going to want to kind of tilt it at an angle enough to where it's going to brace against one of the wire pieces here on the bottom of this top part, or your center floor. And there's not going to be cloth and everything like that in here at this point, and there's not going to be the coroplast in here. You're going to have the wire here. You're going to want to put the ramp in here, obviously, before you put any coroplast or anything in here. Even before you put the coroplast, you know, on your ramp and everything like that, you're going to want to go ahead and zip tie it all in, make it sturdy. But as soon as you get it here, you're going to want to zip tie, obviously, the end of it to one of these wires going across here. And then you're going to want to cut a hole. Now you're going to want at least probably for guinea pigs, you're probably going to want at least a 4-inch wide hole. And you're going to want to make it, gosh, let's see the measurements on this. All right, I got a tape measure here, just so you can see the dimensions of my hole here. Looks like it's a little over 7 inches long, and the width on it is just about 3.5 wide. So, you know, you can you're going to want to make it a little bit wider so you have room for your coroplast, your cloth layer, and everything like that, and so they have plenty of room to, you know, get up inside. Now, this hole is big enough so far for my guinea pigs. Hopefully I don't have to make it any bigger. You know, Stormy here definitely has no problem, even though she's growing, she has no problem getting up through that hole, and even Ginger has no problem skirting through that hole now. Now when I first made it, the hole was probably only to about here in length. It was probably only about 5 inches long or something like that by 3.5 wide. And she started having to kind of scur me up through it and wiggle to get up through the hole. So what I had to do is I had to drop my ramp a little bit, put it a little bit more this way, and make the hole longer. And now she has no problem getting up it. Now another thing too, that, you know, this is my first guinea pig that I ever made. Here, one piece of advice here, you know, when I first started, I was going to go gung-ho. I remember I was going to make it 3 floors high, so I was going to make it 3 by 1 by 2 by, you know, 3 different layers. So I would have had to make 2 different ramps. That was my original plans. Once I get this done, I was like, you know what, that's good enough. And I'm glad I actually didn't go higher, because I made this ramp about 4 months ago, and as you can see, just the weight of the top is kind of causing the top section to fall down a little bit. It's about a ½ inch. So right here in the middle especially, the weight is kind of causing it to sink in, about a ½ inch. So, you know, if you had more weight on the top of it, then it would definitely cause a lot more sinkage and the whole, you know, thing to sink in. So my advice now, if I was going to make another guinea pig cage like this, I think what I would do is probably use some wood. So if you really want this thing to last, you know, and I see my kids kind of leaning on it a little bit sometimes too, I'm sure that doesn't do it any good. But if I was going to make this thing again, I would probably make a wooden frame, you know, and I would put wood links probably on all the outer edges, and then, you know, use wood frame, maybe a light board across each layer, and kind of nail a frame or screw a frame together to give it a good foundation. And that way you could just lay the wire right on top of the frame, on top of the wood, and then you would have a nice strong wood foundation for your cage, and you probably wouldn't have this sinkage like I'm seeing, just making it all wire. But for this cage right here, just 2 layers, it looks like it's going to hold up okay. You know, I'm just saying, if I was to do it again, I would, you know, especially if you're going to make it any higher than that, if you're going to make 3 floors or something like that, you definitely want to use probably a wood frame to give it a foundation. So guinea pigs are still growing, and that's an update with the guinea pigs, and hopefully I've answered the questions, maybe even more so than what I've been asked here by a couple of people. So thanks for watching, and signing off for Zoxter 99.